to be honest, that is so much better in the US. Hi and welcome back. So, Americans are quite different from us Europeans, and especially from us Germans maybe. More friendly, less serious, and on effort and effectiveness driven. And today we are finding 5 more things that Americans do differently than us, than the Germans. But before we do that, please make sure to hit a like and a subscribe if you love the content. That would help me so much. And yeah, let's get right into it.
Writing, sleeping, and even saying hello? Before I came here, I had no idea Americans did this differently than Germans. Hallo, servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Felicia and I'm a German living in Cincinnati, Ohio. So some of you may already know this, but I was born and raised in Germany, in Munich to be precise. I went to high school there and to college, and I didn't come to the US until 2016 when I came here for an exchange semester during my undergrad. After that, I returned to get my master's here, and now I'm here as a permanent resident. So I've been living here for about 3 years now, and during those 3 years there have been a lot of occasions where I was really confused because I noticed that my American friends do certain things differently than me and what I was used to from Germany. Some of those things I noticed pretty soon after just being here for a few weeks, but then other things I didn't actually find out about until after a year. For this video, I tried to limit my list to 5 things, but I actually have a lot more to share on this topic. So if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up on this topic. So if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know whether I should make a part 2 on this. So here are 5 things that I noticed Americans do differently than Germans.
Handwriting, okay.
For some reason, Americans have different handwriting than Germans. And this is something that I didn't really notice until like a year after I first came here. Because whenever I saw someone's handwriting, which is kind of rare nowadays, it never occurred to me that that's how all Americans did it. I just assumed that that's that particular person's way of writing things. But no, it turns out that all Americans do it like that. And I'm glad that I found out, because now I always try to write.
Tell me, what is different? What do we different than Americans?
The same way that Americans write, especially when I fill out forms or something, because I want to avoid any kind of confusion, especially with my phone number and my address, because these differences especially regard numbers. Here are a few examples. In Germany, this is how I always wrote my 1, with this long line starting at the bottom.
Okay, yeah.
And I think this is how most Germans do it. Or some
I would write it not from the bottom, but maybe from the middle.
Make a slightly shorter line.
Yeah, exactly.
Americans, on the other hand, write their 1 like this, or they write it like this with a serif.
Interesting.
The 4 looks like this in my handwriting, but I just learned last week that apparently some Americans do it differently. I teach German to first graders once a week, and they actually complained about it to me and told me that this is how you properly write a 4. I feel like I haven't seen that difference a whole lot though, so to my American viewers, how do you guys write a 4?
I have never seen such a 4.
Then Germans usually write the 7 like this, with a line through the middle, while a lot of Americans just write it like this, without one, which can be kind of confusing to a German, because this kind of looks like a German 1. And last but not least, a lot of Americans complain that the German 9 looks like a G. I've heard this so many times, because Germans write their 9 like this, while Americans do it like this. And that's how I try to do it now too, especially when I write something that other people are supposed to read. So just an example, this is how I write my birth year when I'm in Germany, and this is how I write it when I'm in the US. Now, regarding letters,
I found, just from a aesthetic point, I found the German version with the nice round 4 a little bit more beautiful.
most Germans write their Z with a line in the middle, while a lot of Americans don't do that.
Well, actually, before I studied math, I haven't. But then when I studied maths, I started it because, a C could always mean a 2, and then it was always a bit confusing.
alphabet. And a lot of Americans write their capital I's or J's with a serif, while Germans usually do it like this most of the time. Or we may even write it in a completely different way, because all Germans learn cursive in school, and from what I remember, it was also mandatory to use it until at least 4th grade, or it may have been even longer. After graduating, Germans usually don't use cursive anymore, but a lot of them keep certain elements from cursive in their everyday handwriting. And it's often the capital letters, so a capital I would look like this, which could be kind of confusing if a German writes something in English and then the word I always kind of looks like a J, or some people use the cursive capital K, L, or other letters. And related to this, there's another everyday difference regarding school. I'm not sure if this is the same in all Germany, but when I went to school, we only used a pencil in 1st grade, and then starting in 2nd grade, we were required to use a fountain
We even in 1st grade were required to do that.
pen all throughout elementary school.
Yeah.
And then I think in 5th or 6th grade, we were allowed to use a ball pen. But pencils weren't really
I think not in 6th, I think maybe in 7th or 8th.
something people would write with in school, and filling out an exam with a pencil is actually usually not allowed.
Illegal.
Because it's hard to read and it's also easy to manipulate afterwards. In the US, however, most students write with pencils in school, even on exams, but I'm not sure if that's something that's required in school or if it's just very common to do. And one thing that I had also never seen before I came to the US is this little thing. And this is something that you'll find in almost all American classrooms, even college classrooms. And it's a pencil sharpener attached to the wall.
That's so cool, still, that's so cool.
The second thing that Germans and Americans do differently a lot, and of course this doesn't apply to all Germans and all Americans, but it's definitely a pattern that you can observe a lot, is how people say hello and goodbye to each other. In general, I would say that Americans are more individual than Germans. Maybe you've heard about this distinction between individual cultures like the US and collective cultures like they have it in a lot of Asian countries. And while both the US and Germany are considered to have individual cultures, I would say that Americans are even more on the individual side of the spectrum than Germans. And that's something that you can absolutely see with how people greet each other and say goodbye. Americans seem to be a lot more casual about those things. They often just say a quick hello, hi, what's up, and then when they leave, see ya, bye, and then they're already gone. And this is
I think we do that the same way in Germany, though.
That I especially noticed on campus back when I was still a student. German students love to walk around in groups, and when they have to split up, they'll often say something like, have a great time in your next class, and I'll see you tomorrow in blah 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 class, or something specific like that. So here in the US,
more like girls, I think. And boys wouldn't do that with each other. Just maybe you with your girlfriend, more like girls. But boys not.
whenever I was walking in the same direction as a classmate I was friendly with, I would naturally walk with them. And sometimes it happened that that person wouldn't even realize that I tried to do that because they weren't used to it, or they would just randomly say bye in the middle of the conversation. So when you walk together and talk about something...
Yeah, that is something you don't do. You mostly wait to the conversation to end, which is sometimes a little bit annoying because you're on a move, you know, and then you have maybe to interrupt somebody and are like, hey, I have to go to my train or something like that. That is a thing, yes. You don't go normally in the middle of a conversation.
And then have to split up. In Germany, people would stop and try to wrap it up as quickly as possible and then say goodbye. While in the US, it often happens that people don't even stop and just say goodbye in the middle of the conversation and walk away. And you'll notice that
would somehow be a little bit rude in Germany.
the difference even more when you're in a social group, like at someone's birthday dinner, for example. In Germany, when a new person joins the group, it's common that they go around and say hi to everyone individually, often by hugging them, while in the US, it's often just a quick hi to everyone. And it's the same with goodbyes in Germany. If the group isn't too big, you'll say goodbye to every single one, and again, hug them in a lot of cases. Neither of the two behavior patterns are better or worse in my opinion. They both have their pros and cons. But if I had to describe this to a German, I'd probably say that Americans kind of get together and separate almost
More
like
fluidly.
a cloud of mosquitoes in a pretty loose way, while in Germany there seems to be more commitment involved. This is somewhat related to the last
But this is a little bit the general feeling, you know. I think you can make way easier friends in the US, for example.
point. It's about answering and hanging up the phone. A lot of people in Germany answer their cell phones the same way they would answer their landline phones, by saying their name, often their last name or their first and last name. So they'll just answer their phone and say Schmidt, no hello or anything else. I mean,
I just would say, ja, hallo, basically, you know, and with like, you know, your house phone, there I would probably say my name.
this is mostly when you don't know who's calling, obviously, but I've never heard an American answer their phone with just their name. I mean, I know that for landline phones, Americans would kind of do that and go like, Smith Residence, Felicia speaking, but I'm not even sure if people still do that now.
Do you really say residence? That sounds so, you know, majestic. Oh, that's the residence.
Only know that from movies. When it comes to hanging up, I feel like Americans often sound super short and almost kind of mean, which is funny because Americans overall are a lot more friendly and open than Germans. But when it comes to hanging up the phone, Germans often do the same spiel as we do in real life, where we sum things up first, then we exchange good wishes.
It feels better, you know, because, you know, and then you say to the other person that the talk was good, stuff like, I understand it with talking, not with like being around, because then you see how the face is and stuff like this, you know, how other people react. But over the phone, there can be some things sometimes misunderstood and stuff, and there it's better to wrap it up a bit. There I'm a little bit on the German side, to be honest.
Wishes, then we talk about when we'll see each other again, and then we'll sing tschüss, or another way of saying goodbye into the phone, which is also the way that Germans say tschüss in real life, by the way. We always
Because if you say tschüss, it always sounds so mean, you know, tschüss. You always have to sing it. Tschüss.
sing it, and that's also how I do it in my videos, actually. In the US, a lot of people just say bye in this kind of angry sounding tone. And I know they don't mean anything bad by it, it's just their normal tone, but compared to the rest of the culture, it really kind of threw me off in the beginning. Especially when you hear someone talking to their mom or something and it's really loving, and then they go, oh, thank you, love you too, mom. Okay, bye. Definitely a difference.
Yeah.
Germans and Americans sleep differently,
Okay.
which probably sounds kind of weird at first, because don't all people sleep the same? But no, apparently they don't. First of all, there are a lot of differences between German and American beds, but the thing that threw me off the most in the beginning was this whole tucking in thing. Americans really like it to tuck in their sheets or their comforter into the bed, like underneath the mattress.
You do that?
And then sleep in it like in a cave or something. To Germans, that's just such a nasty habit. We literally hate that collectively as a society. Because we actually like it the other way around. We love wrapping our comforter around our feet and all around ourselves. So the first thing we do when we see a bed with tucked in sheets, we'll pull them out. And this is actually very well known in the hotel business. I've heard that a lot of housekeepers here hate German tourists because we always mess up the bed entirely, and then they have to tuck in the sheets again, and then we'll just pull them out again the next day. And even though I've been here for a while now and I have adapted in a lot of different ways to the US, I honestly don't think I'll ever...
No, it's just uncomfortable. Sorry, it is just uncomfortable. You don't get... No. It has to be, you have to be fluid, you know. You have to have freedom of movement a bit. You know, America, the country of the free, where's the freedom here?
Start liking that. Americans even say, I'll tuck you in to a kid when they bring them to
Interesting.
bed. And there isn't even a German translation for that, for tuck in that sense. So that's how much this isn't a thing in Germany. A few other things about sleeping habits is that German beds usually have a slatted frame with a mattress on top instead of a box spring. And they're often a lot lower than American beds. We usually have comforters and pillows with duvet covers that we can take off and wash regularly instead of quilted comforters or a blanket with sheets. A lot of Germans use square pillows. I personally don't, but a lot of Germans do. And big double beds usually have 2 twin mattresses in the big frame, and a lot of couples have separate comforters instead of sharing one.
And if you are a little child, you always, and you have, for example, a bad dream, you always go into the Ritze, into the, I don't know what the English word for it is, into this little hole here.
Double mattress and double comforter thing, I personally definitely prefer the American way. Now let's get back to the topic. So the last thing that I have on my list of things that Germans and Americans do differently is that a lot of Americans wear street shoes inside the house. This varies from household to household, obviously.
To be honest, that is so much better in the US. I don't know, but for me, I do this myself too. Of course, it is not nicely seen, but first of all, I don't know, it gives you also the feeling to be more productive. Just if you have your shoes on, you're always on the, you know, I don't know, you're always mobile, you always can go around, stuff like that. I do this myself. Of course, not if you have really dirty shoes or something like that. But, you know, if it's like in the summer, why not, right?
But overall, it seems to be a lot more common in the US to wear your shoes inside and not take them off when you enter the house. And that's something that's very different in Germany. In most German houses and apartments, you'll see a whole lot of shoes in the entrance area because most Germans take off their shoes as soon as they get into the house. And in some apartment buildings, you'll even see the shoes outside in the shared hallway because people don't want the dirt inside their apartment, and there's also often a lack of space. So wearing street shoes inside the house is very rare in Germany, but instead, Germans love to wear slippers inside, Hausschuhe. Almost every German...
I never got into this. Of course, I have some because you got always them as a gift and stuff like that. I've never gotten too much into that. Sorry.
Has at least one pair, and as soon as they come inside, they'll immediately switch from street shoes to house shoes, slippers. For guests, a lot of Germans have a few extra pairs of guest slippers, and as a kid, I also had a pair at kindergarten and then later at elementary school. So we would change into slippers before we entered the classroom. And when I went to a friend's place as a kid, it was very common to bring your own pair of slippers with you to wear at their place. And this is something where I guess...
I don't know about that actually. I don't think so. But we needed to have even in kindergarten, so I think it's preschool in the US, to have, you know, our own slippers for just there. So we needed to have a pair at home and one there. And I don't know, Germans just love their slippers, their house shoes.
I was never fully German at heart because I never really liked that concept, and I stopped wearing slippers pretty soon when I grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to wear thick socks, but I don't really like wearing shoes inside the house at all. And if I do, it'll be my street shoes. Yeah,
exactly. I don't even like thick socks because I don't know, I feel not mobile then on my feet. I most of the time have when I'm barefoot. Yeah.
So when I came to the US, I really felt like I was in good company here. That was the list for today of things that Germans and Americans do differently. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video.
Tell me in the comments, maybe you have some German ancestry, maybe you have some friends in Germany, maybe you have been in Germany yourself, or just know it maybe from another kind of videos that you saw, that you watched. What are a few more things that you do differently than we do, for example? I would love to know that myself, to just compare it and see, is the American way the better way for me personally, or is the German way the better way? I think we were here, I don't know, a few points I was still with Germany, for example, the bad one. But for example, the shoe one, I definitely am on the US side. And with some, I get both ways. For example, with saying hi to the group and saying goodbye to the group. So it's very, very interesting to see more if I would like more the American habits or the German habits. But of course, you know, I'm more used to the German habits, so probably I will have more on that side just because of, you know, I was raised like that. But yeah, maybe tell me that, and maybe tell me also in the comments, which one would you prefer to be American things, so which one maybe do you like better that are German things, but yeah, you're American yourself. I would love to know that. Yeah, and otherwise I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep liking, subscribing, and we see each other in the next one. Bye!